we're here, space is out there, but space is involved, in our day-to-day life even today. Well, maybe people are not aware of that, but whenever you open your Google Maps or Waze and you start navigate, right? Basically, all the navigation is performed by connecting to satellites in space.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Turing, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and in media partnership with C-Tech. Let's talk about space. We have a very special episode today with Avi Shabtai, CEO of Ramon.Space. Avi is the CEO of Ramon.Space, a leader in space computing solutions. As seasoned leader, Avi has worked extensively to develop and manage teams, transform organizations into successful environments across multiple industries. Avi's track record spans over 2 decades of international experience in business and technology leadership, marketing, strategic sales, channel development, and engineering. Prior to Ramon.Space, Avi was CEO of MultiPhy Inc., specializing in high-speed integrated circuits for the data center market. He also held senior positions at Alvarion Technologies Metalink, Tiaris, and the intelligence unit of the Israeli Defense Force. Avi Shabtai, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. I'm really excited to talk to you, not about mornings or about even the tech industry. I'm talking about space today. You're the CEO of Ramon.Space, talking about computing in space and cloud in space. Things that I don't think we necessarily even think about in our day-to-day lives, or we take for granted that the technology we have on Earth is obviously available in space, but that is not necessarily true. And I'm excited to hear from you about your entrance into the space industry from the Technion and from running other companies. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and let's start with community theater, because I feel like that's a pretty big part of your life.
It's been a big part of my life. I got to it by coincidence. I really wasn't prepared to do anything like that. I didn't know that I would like it. And then I went to one session and I kind of fell in love. And it's been really fun, exciting. In some way, it's out of this world. Because, when you play on stage, you get out of your own comfort zone. And then you get out there and I can, there's nothing like it, I guess. I got to understand why people that perform on stage have this kind of high after performing. It's incredible. The way you can interact with the audience and the feedbacks, it's like unbelievable. It's really unbelievable when you get that kind of feeling. I recommend for those who can, who have the guts to go up there on stage and be someone else for 2 hours.
I used to perform in quite a few musicals and plays in high school, and I just remember that feeling of the family that we formed when we got on stage and we had to, work with each other, even without the audience, just us as a family putting up a product out there. Unbelievable, right?
The process is also fun.
It's amazing. Avi, Tell me a little bit about space. Even before you tell me what you're doing in space, give me the context. We're here on Earth, quite a ways down from the things that are happening up there. What context do I need to know as a young entrepreneur to even to begin to understand why Ramon.Space is relevant today?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with something that, when I talk to people about space, so people tend to say, oh, what this has to do with us? I mean, we're here, space is out there, but space is involved, in our day-to-day life even today. Well, maybe people are not aware of that, but whenever you open your Google Maps or Waze and you start navigate, right? Basically, all the navigation is performed by connecting to satellites in space. Whenever you watch, in many cases, when you watch TV, you actually watch TV through space. So space is part of our lives in a way we may not be aware of that, but it's already there. Now, I think that if you take it to kind of the next level, I think mankind has been always in a position to look for something new and to kind of get over the boundaries where we live or what we do. And I think space is in this category. And I always like to use the example of and sorry if I'm taking it really, really far away from where we are today. But in 1492, when Christopher Columbus got on a ship to supposedly found another world, I guess many people thought, why do we need? I mean, we have everything around us. We live here. It's okay. So these crazy people that went on that ship and sailed, risking their lives and so on, no one really thought it's got any meaning. But no one can say that it didn't change the world, right? So I think mankind is always on the verge of expanding boundaries, and space is the next one. We need to take into account that we've been in space no more about about 60 years or so. That's pretty much it. I think the first satellite was launched in 1957. So it's just the beginning of this journey. And so that's how I see space. Space is another dimension or another boundaries that mankind is now penetrating.
So I'm hearing that, while a lot of us have the context that space is, this big elaborate thing that is, very futuristic, you're actually saying no, it's actually in part of our day-to-day. It's a day-to-day thing that we're using, from our navigation to our entertainment, and therefore it is hugely relevant to probably any company that arises today and wants to interact with customers in one way or another. What are the limitations then that you're observing in the space industry, or whatever is happening out there, that requires a company like Ramon.Space?
Yeah. So I think space. John Kennedy says we go to space because space is hard. So space is hard. It's difficult to get there. The environmental conditions are not easy for people to be, but also for electronics to work well. We take into account, I mean, what Ramon.Space is doing is we're bringing supercomputing to space. But the essence of that is that we believe that whenever we want, in the path to space, we will need to put more computing, more technology, more software, more applications. So that's kind of a baseline where we start from. And then in order to do that, we need to provide computers that can really function and work well in space. Now, the main, I would say, things that prevent electronics from working properly in space is, the radiation, which is very severe in space, the extreme temperatures, the vacuum. I mean, there is no air. You cannot cool anything by just airflow. So that you need to make sure that whatever you send there is really going to work. And what we're providing kind of supercomputers that can work in space, function properly, and enable whoever wants to write software or application to do it seamlessly without thinking that they need to develop something for space, and kind of making the fusion between what's happening on Earth and the ecosystem on Earth to what's happening in space.
Now, is this obvious to you throughout your life that you understand that there are these limitations in space? You go through the Technion, you go through different companies. Do you know that space is a place where you'll want to end up? Because what I'm imagining as a young entrepreneur, I can't imagine somebody waking up one day and saying, "You know what? I'm going to build a company that deals with space." It sounds so Black Mirror-y and so complicated that you need such domain expertise to even begin talking about it. Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to get to space, despite the fact that people say it's karma because, according to my name, it should be obvious, right? I think it happened actually through interaction with people that were already involved in space. And I met Ran Genosar, who founded Ramon.Space coming from the Technion. And I really connected to the concept and to the fact that space is going to be the next big market or big opportunity or will have probably the biggest impact on life on Earth. That's what I really connected to. I think I guess through my career, I was always exposed to new technologies or new markets. So I guess it wasn't scary to say, okay, let's get to space. I mean, it's another boundaries you need to break, and it's possible. And when you understand the technology, and the terms and conditions of everything, then okay, it can be done. And that's how I connected to it. Besides the fact that space, it's exciting in a way. In a sense, it's in many technologies that we're doing, we make an impact on people's lives, and so. But space has a much bigger um, potential for an impact on life on Earth, probably in any dimension you can think about.
Right. And so we're talking now about, supercomputing in space. I believe in one place I read, bringing the cloud to space, which made me also understand a little bit that, okay, it's not trivial that the things that we're building here are going to be available for us up there. And we see so many incredible technologies and advancements in cloud computing that, right, they're not necessarily available in space. But another part that was interesting for me is thinking about the commercialization of space. Because I'm assuming that 20, 30 years ago, you had governments launch satellites and spaceships and etc. For a startup to go and sell them supercomputers, it might not be that trivial, but perhaps in the commercialization age or era that we're in now, it seems like it's much more likely. Is that an important distinction, the commercialization of the space industry?
Yeah, certainly, because the commercialization, I think, brings two things. One, it speeds up the pace in which there are developments. It opens the door for non-traditional way of thinking, and to the way we are going to utilize space by delivering new services and so on. And it actually makes I call it a different money flow, because governments has kind of a way how they work, how they operate, in many cases with traditional players, and with relatively long-term plans at their own pace, where the commercial world is faster. It's typically faster. It's open for disruption. It enables newcomers to come in and change the rules of the game, and that's what it leads to. And you can see, how the money flow and the new initiatives coming into space, how they start to change the way people work in space and the whole ecosystem. So it's not longer, it's no longer a game of governments, and I think that's a huge, huge impact.
So play a game with me and take us, few years down the line. You choose how many years. What is this ecosystem looking like, and how does Ramon.Space fit into this ecosystem?
One of the things that, before I answer that, I think one of these people asked me, what's going to be in space? What's going to be in space? So the first thing I'm saying, I don't know. Not because I cannot envision. I don't know because it's kind of the thing that is developed. And, there are probably a few tens of thousands of entrepreneurs thinking of what they can do in space, and they're going to surprise me and you and probably everyone else. I can tell you a little story from my background. I think my first job was in a company called Metalink when we did DSL, ADSL at the time, VDSL. And ADSL was a technology that was meant to connect high-speed connectivity to homes. And you know what is the main reason why ADSL was invented?
What is it?
It's ADSL was invented in order to enable the telephone companies provide TV services and competing with the cable companies. That's why it's called ADSL, asymmetric, because a lot of streaming coming down. And but surprisingly, nobody really used it at the time for TV services, right? It was used actually for the next big thing, which was internet access. So internet access was, the main use cases for ADSL. And guess what? 20 years afterwards, what is now, I mean, being delivered over the internet lines? I mean, what is the number one service? Video services, right? But not in the way people thought. It's not a telephone company sending you movies or TV services. It starts to be over the top type of services, Netflix and Amazon Prime. So this is
And
just to
of
give a
course,
small
20 years
example.
ago, nobody could have imagined that this is the way that we're going to
Right.
be, getting entertainment. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, look at space and makes it 10 times more bigger in that essence. And so we are in our humble place. We're saying, we're going to deliver to you computers that can work. You can start writing software and services. Yes, it will start from communication, from navigation, Earth observation. But guess what? There will be other things. People talk about production in space, using space resources in ways that we didn't imagine, landing on asteroids and bringing new materials, making experiments, pharmaceutical experiments in space. Uh, so the dimensions start to develop, and I really don't know how it's going to evolve, but it's going to evolve in ways which definitely we do not imagine today. That's I'm sure, and I'm also sure that computers will be there. So that's kind of my thinking on that.
And I'm guessing that a big part of this game, as you're literally in the inflection point where we see the commercialization, right? I put the down payment for the beta of Starlink. Already, I remember having a representative from Partner coming here a few days ago to connect the cables for the new apartment. And I got into this debate with him over whether Partner will have place in the industry in 7 to 10 years when we're looking at what is happening in space today. But I'm imagining that for a company like Ramon.Space, when talking about computing, you need to be really open-minded and you need to be really open to all the things that are happening around the space industry, because you have the opportunity to be in all of them. You just have to find the right opportunities, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we talk to companies that take pictures of Earth and or videos of Earth. And for example, I was talking to someone saying, let's say, for the sake of discussion, that you can open your mobile phone and see a spot on Earth in real time whenever you want. Okay, you don't have it today, but it's possible. Will it develop some sort of applications that could be interesting and be worth earthy money? Probably yes. And that's just a small example of things that can happen from space. Um,
Right.
all the real-time services and so on from detecting things on Earth, they're not there today, and they are waiting for computing to come and support it.
I love it. I really, really love it. And I personally get so excited just understanding how little I know about what's happening in space. And I'm only thinking, a few generations down the line, how crucial a part this is going to play, and getting rid of all this crazy infrastructure we're building around us, and the infinite cables and the infinite, big poles that are trying to provide services. And I get really excited about the thought of a potential future like that. But for now, Avi, I have a few fun questions for you. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
All right. So we'll start off easy. Your favorite subject in school, that's middle school or high school?
Not really history.
Okay. Is there any specific part of history that you're particularly fascinated by?
No, I was just very intrigued by history. It's really a story, and I guess it's something to learn from, despite the fact that what is the number one uh, thing that you learn from history is that you never learn from history. But
Right. I love that. That's a really good one. Okay. One of your role models or somebody that inspires you.
I think in the context, very much Elon Musk. I think it's just the way I think he looks on how to get there in the future. I think he's not afraid to fail and really is very focused on getting there. That's my so
Wonderful.
that's very impressive.
And 3 words that you would use to describe yourself, and why those 3 specific words?
Mm-hmm. For us, a creativity, um, future, and learn. That's what I picked kind of with my brain.
Creativity,
I
future,
think
and
it's
learn.
kind of describing me because I'm a pretty creative person. I like to look at things differently and think out of the box. I always think ahead and try to see it at work and outside work, kind of analyze, maybe sometimes too much, but what's going to happen next, and afterwards. And I like to learn. I'm very curious, and I'm always in a kind of a learning mode. So I think that's kind of that's what makes me.
Avi, thank you for coming. Thank you for spending time with me. I know how busy you are. I learned a lot, and I'm really excited about where this is going. And I just love the idea that we have here in the Israel ecosystem companies like Ramon.Space that are thinking that far down the line, and are open minded and creative, and are already preparing for this new era that we're entering. And really thank you for the great insights and stories. It's been really great. And until then, stay safe and stay
Yeah,
healthy.
it's been a pleasure. Next time we'll do it in space.
I'm taking you up on that. Thank you,
Okay.
Avi. תודה רבה. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Yes. Bye bye.